Right, let's get cracking with this week's Street Talk then. And we have got 7 storylines this week. We're going to be starting off with the Deb Freeze storyline.
Deb Freeze?
You thought that was all right. No, it's not. That sounds like deep freeze, isn't it? Kind of. It sounded better earlier in the week when I wrote it down.
Everyone in Coronation Street came up with better puns.
Yeah, I know. Then we have the size supply story and the pull over story, which I also have not come up with a decent storyline title for yet. Then we return to the Baileys. Threes are crowded, and it's about to get a bit crowdeder with Ronnie there. Although he's not actually living there, is he? They're saying that he wants to move nearby. I also thought we could call this storyline "He's new Ron, he's new Ron," to celebrate the new character on the street, or Ronnie come lately. As he is. The Baileys have been on the street for 2 years, and this is the first that we've heard of him.
I can't believe that we got a new Bailey and it's not bloody Dee.
I know, I don't believe it either. Downward Dobbs is going to be my title for the Tyrone Does Yoga story, and I do like that one. We had a little bit of the Johnny Jailbird, and tonight's episode we saw a little bit more of the lovely gay dead story, with the preparations for his funeral, which I'm sure is going to be hilarious with Eileen potentially driving the hearse. Is Eileen going to drive the hearse, or Gail didn't want it, did she? They said it was either going to be Steve or Tim, but I don't know. Get the feeling it might end up being Eileen. Whoever it is, whoever they find, they shouldn't turn it down, because you know what? If somebody tells you to drive a hearse, you really should do, because don't look a gift hearse in the mouth. Yeah.
You nearly screwed that up.
I nearly screwed. Right, Gemma, can you do the deep...
You want me to do this?
Well, no, I thought you might like to do it. You like Debbie. I can't make the story shorter, but I can do that with a window. There we go.
Right, so...
Where were we left last week?
I don't feel in the mood at all to do this.
I'm sure you'll warm up to it.
Right, Monday. They're still in the fridge. And it is a fridge, it's not a freezer. I know people have been a bit confused about this.
This has been, the hot topic. Is it a fridge or is it a freezer?
Hot topic.
Oh, dear.
Is this going to have a chilling effect on people?
Oh, my gosh. Is this the standard of today's podcast? We're just getting it out there in the first 5 minutes.
Oh, man. Right, so they've been sitting in a fridge, which, again, arguably slightly warmer than some of the other... some of the situations people have been dealing with. I know Texans will probably find this a
bit close to the bone.
Yeah. On Monday, Seb finds Abby tidying up because she's had this row with Kevin and she wants to make up to him.
Yeah, she's doing the Hoover, isn't she? Do you remember? And she was trying to get the Hoover to work, but she hadn't plugged it in.
Is this Coronation Street going,
start to
all right, well, stop doing the women can't cook jokes. Let's do the women can't clean jokes.
Yeah. No, that was not the best start.
If you're an adult and you can't work a Hoover, you deserve to be put in the bin. So they're
married off to Kevin Webster. Next best thing.
For God's sake. I mean, I can't believe that in a house where Kevin lives with one other person, the other person doesn't know how to work the Hoover.
That's true. Who else is supposed to do the hoovering around at number 13?
There's no way Kevin does the hoovering. And I was in the kitchen, ironically enough, when they were talking about this, but there were so many weird misogynistic jokes that Abby was fine about Kevin making about her being his wife. It was just, I wanted to shoot him in the face. Anyway, they're not sure how long they've been there, Kevin and Debbie, but he remembers the time that Robert and Michelle got stuck, and he says, I know it's been 3 days, but I've just remembered that I could probably...
It was, wasn't it? It was definitely at least the next day. And Kevin's only now just remembered, oh yeah, Robert and Michelle got stuck in here that one time. And Robert said to me that one time, if you ever find yourself stuck in a freezer that is converted into a fridge, stick your pencil in the fan and you'll be right as rain.
And I like the way it's taken this long, and they've presumably heard the fridge
the
fan kicking in several times, and they've just been noisy.
Yeah.
And then he suddenly remembered. He was like, I've just been on my phone looking on Coropedia. We should stick a pencil in it. And they're like, for some reason they're stuck on the idea it must be some kind of pencil. And Debbie's like, would an eyebrow pencil work? And they're like, I don't know. I don't know if it needs to be a lead pencil or an eyebrow. Surely any object that is long and thin will do. You could use a piece of trout or whatever they're stuck in there with. Boxes and
No,
boxes
they were
of...
boxes of swordfish, weren't they? That would be perfect.
Exactly.
Get
Hopefully,
a frozen swordfish nose, jam it right
jab
in
it in there. If this was a Disney cartoon, that would have been their first port of call. But they put the pencil in the hole, and it doesn't seem to have much effect. But they never mention again.
No.
It seems to. Does it stop the weird lighting from changing
No.
from blue to pink?
It goes pink after this. Believe it or not, the lights
Moonlighting.
and the fans aren't connected.
Okay. Debbie tells Kevin that people were frozen naked in Antarctica, and that would be pretty awkward. I think this is when they talk about paradoxical undressing.
Yes.
Which is what happens when you get hypothermia. You start to think that you might be a bit hot, and so you take your clothes off. I don't think that we get that far here, but maybe if it was after 9, that would have been something to look forward to. Craig comes to Sally's and says, "Ooh, Ray."
We arrested him last week. That was a twist, wasn't it?
He's been arrested. He's in custody. And Sally's pleased, and Abby's like, "Oh, he's not dead." I thought that Debbie killed him. That this is a bit of a bone of contention between the pair later on this week, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, it's like when you say you took the bins out and you haven't done it.
That never happens.
The other person gets a bit mad. Later on, Abby has told Sally that Debbie said she killed Ray, and she says, "Right, I know that we've just been ignoring the fact that Debbie and Kevin have gone missing, and nobody's put 2 and 2 together that they're missing together during a time when it's quite suspicious that they would have gone missing. But I need to find her now because she told me she killed someone and
I
she
didn't
hasn't
think
got
at
around
this
to it."
point that Kevin was officially missing. I thought he was still
Oh,
supposed
yeah,
to
he
be
was
camping
still
out
camping.
with Jack, as far as Abby's concerned.
Abby tries to get hold of them by knocking on the door of the bistro, because let's remember the bistro's been locked up because of the crash that Mick the gangster drove through the door. So they've boarded it all up. No more eat out to help out. No more supporting your local bistro by having overpriced
Thank
chicken
God
nuggets.
for speed dial.
Yeah, it's a good job that also the Rovers is doing takeaway. What would they eat otherwise? She's trying to knock on the door.
Yeah, she reckons that Debbie has barricaded herself inside for some reason.
So this is the front door, which is far away from the kitchen door, which is still another door in front of the fridge door. So although Kevin tries to hammer back, she can't hear him. It's too far away. Debbie says, "Let's just go to sleep," which is always my answer to any problem.
Yeah, she's a girl after her own heart, isn't she?
Kevin won't let her. They just start to reminisce about their childhood and their parents. And they talk about watching films. Debbie's so bored she starts to fall asleep. Kevin changes tack and decides to have a go at her for the fact that she wrapped him and his dad, their dad, round her little finger when the mum died. And Debbie's like, "What? What?" She immediately wakes up to have an argument.
I like that tactic.
Yep. She's saying basically, "No, I skivvied for you." But Abby gets a phone call from Chesney, and he says, "Oh, Jack's here. Where's Kevin? Kevin never even turned up." The Willits come to see Abby. I don't know who that is.
Willits.
Oh, Willits. It's the policeman.
Yeah.
Comes to see Abby. She says, "Oh, we don't know where Kevin's gone." And he's like, "Oh, we don't really care about people that have gone missing." If you keep an eye, I tell you what, is a good app to download. It's the Body in the Canal app.
Yeah.
If you want to find...
Really helpful. Go and speak to Billy about that.
Honestly, normally they're just dead in the canal, so I wouldn't worry too much. He's not gone far. Debbie's making ice puns, and they're still arguing. And Kevin's saying, "Oh, you're always only ever interested in money." And then she starts this whole thing about, "Oh, yeah, but it never loved me back." The curse of the childless woman on Coronation Street is that no matter what success she ever achieves in her personal or professional life, she was still always yearning for that one thing that will make everything okay, which is to have a baby. Sad.
Well, I don't know whether she was hankering after a kid. She was just like saying...
That's how it felt to me.
It just felt to me more like it was she didn't have the love of a good man. Apart from that little bit where she was getting out with Ray. And that was arguably not a good man.
Interesting way of thinking about it. Ray tells Willits he's got no idea where Debbie and Kevin are. Debbie says, "Oh, it was really hard for me when Mum died. I had to look after you. I'd vowed to be nobody's doormat ever again. So I followed the money and I just found loneliness." I mean, to be honest, she's right to I said this before on the podcast, but literally, if you do a survey of like general happiness, single women come out on top every single time. It goes single women, married men, and then I think it's married women and then single men at the bottom. So if you're a single woman, you're basically winning life.
Debbie's not. She's realising. Also,
honestly,
she thinks.
She might feel a bit regretful now, but at the end of the day, if she and Kevin both got frozen to death in their little freezer thing and then got evacuated, they both would have had a nice funeral and they both would have had the same gravestone, except she would have had fancier stuff and got to eat nice food, and Kevin spent the whole of his life moaning and bitching. If you took a sample of like everyday happiness of Debbie and Kevin throughout the time we've seen them, he spent far more time causing drama and moaning, and most of it's revolved around him not keeping his penis in his pants.
Maybe you should have used that to stop the fan. He could have solved two problems at once.
Nobody would have missed it apart from him. So anyway, Willis goes back to number 13 and says maybe Kevin and Debbie have done a bunk together, and Abby's like, no way, he'd never abandon Jack, and Jack's like, what's that? It reminds me of Thor's hammer, like because I've been watching a lot of Marvel films recently. Thor sometimes will summon his hammer and it takes a while for it to arrive, which is what Jack did.
Another episode
Jack was like flying through the ether head first, like, did someone say my name? Me, Jack? You want Jack? He arrives on Friday.
No, Wednesday.
Oh, it didn't take him that long then, did it?
Where are you up to? You're here. It's back to Devon and Kevy again.
Abby's
I
like...
keep saying Devon and bloody Kevy. Kevin and Debbie.
Abby's like, oh no, Kevin must be hurt. I'll have to find him myself. And everyone at home's like, thank God, Abby's finally on the case. She'll sort it out. They're very tired, Kevin and Debbie. She says Abby's the best thing that's ever happened to him. Mustn't let her go. And they talk about their childhood.
Talk about mum being sick.
Debbie sang her ABBA songs in
Debbie
Korean.
Kevin, Abby.
Okay, that's cleared up.
Debbie sang Kevin, Abby songs. No, ABBA songs. This is really tempting us there.
I can't do this anymore. I quit the podcast. This is too much.
Just trying to trip us up.
They're getting cold. They're getting tired, just like us. More upset. He says, "I won't let you die." He starts banging on the door. Abby's in Ray's office. She hears the banging. Kevin sees Debbie fall unconscious, tries to help her. Abby comes into the kitchen, finds the envelope of papers. Seb phones, says, I'm coming back with this paperwork. And she goes home, and Kevin sings to Debbie, take a chance on me.
Do you remember all this?
Why?
You just sound like you're reading it.
I am reading it. Well done. I'm reading exactly what you've written. On Wednesday, Kevin wakes up. He's like, Debbie, wake up. She says, oh, I've got a bad knee. I can't believe it. I was like, I don't care about your knee. We're going to die. Who cares about your knee? But, you know, if you've got a bad knee, it's best to put it on ice.
Yeah, there she's in the right place.
Abby's looking through the papers at home. Oh, what a mystery. She's looking at all this. It's very confusing.
Yeah, this is the papers that were signing all the Ray stuff over to Debbie, aren't they?
Jack comes in. Abby's like, don't worry, your dad's missing, so's your aunt, but it's fine, don't worry about it.
Yeah, Jack's been out playing football, and people on the internet seem baffled at the fact that Jack could be going out to play football when he's only got one leg. And it's like, I think he still
one of the main things that they talked about when he lost his leg is, will he be able to play football? And they were like, yeah, it's fine.
I know, and he's been doing his training, he's been doing his running.
The thing about it is, there are certain disabilities that medical knowledge and expertise hasn't quite managed to sort of help out with. But losing your leg, especially, I think is it below the knee?
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'd chop my leg off tomorrow. But I am saying, I don't think it's going to be the end of you doing most things.
Yeah.
And also, the other thing about it is...
It doesn't drive everybody mad like Don Brennan. Some people go on to live perfectly happy and healthy
technology
normal
now.
lives.
And think about... The thing that I think is remarkable is if you look at the Paralympics and like the people who run with prosthetic legs... Part of the reason that they have to separate them out from the Olympians is that they're bloody faster sometimes.
Well, yeah, if they got one of those sprinty blades.
I think that's amazing. That's something to celebrate, not moan about on the internet. But mind you, what else would we do with our life? We couldn't be playing on the internet. Muddy Jack's fine. Abby's like, don't worry about it. Abby goes and says to Faye, "Can you hack into the Bistro computer?" And she's like, "Oh, only if I can just use the keyboard and not the mouse at all." Because that's how you hack into things. Just tap on the computer.
Like, I hope they haven't changed the password. And they haven't.
Debbie and Kevin are talking
that.
about what they're going to do when they get out of there, and I can't remember what it was. And Debbie's bored. She falls asleep again.
She's just cold and tired.
Bored. The password's not been changed, and Faye's like, oh, I don't know about this. It reminds me of the last time I was here, which was when Ray tried to rape me. And Abby's like, oh, sorry. How insensitive of me. That was, I like the fact that she brought that up, because obviously Abby had forgotten. Then Faye finally realises that the handle's been broken off the fridge.
You said that, you spotted it 20 seconds
they
before
framed
Faye.
it. They framed it purposefully so that we would look and go, oh, I wonder if they'll notice. And just like me, worst case scenario girl, they start to think that Debbie and Kevin are locked in there. And I think a lot of people probably watch this at home going, why would they even think that they were locked in there? But I'm the sort of person who would immediately jump to the worst possible conclusion.
You are a bit
and
of a
I would
pessimist,
say,
yes.
Definitely they must be in there and they're almost certainly dead. Let's just leave them.
I wonder who ate who first.
Yep. Abby starts to hammer on the door and Kevin's eyes open, but he's so cold and bored he can't respond. He kicks over the swordfish boxes though, and Debbie's like, oh! So Craig arrives, thank goodness, finally. Dutch is here.
No, he's called Clogs.
Clogs.
Not because he's clever,
I'm
Clogs.
sorry. No. Are we going to talk about this now?
Oh, right, as well, as you brought it up. Yeah,
Stupid.
that was weirdly written, wasn't it? So Craig's nickname is Clogs because he's so brave, and then he gets called Dutch Courage, and then that got shortened to Dutch, and then that got shortened to Clogs, which seems
no
like
sense.
a very long-winded. I mean, I know nicknames do kind of happen like that.
Of course they do. It's like it's Cockney rhyming slang.
But the silliest thing
it's a
about
sad misunderstanding of the phrase Dutch Courage,
Yeah.
which is a phrase that means you need to get drunk to do something brave.
And is Craig that brave?
Number one, Craig's not that brave. Number two, unless he's got a substance abuse problem that they are hiding from us, he also in no way represents the phrase Dutch courage.
No.
So I think the third explanation is that Weatherfield police are so bad at literally everything that they can't give out a nickname that makes sense.
Well,
or he's called Clogs for another reason.
Well, the best one that I saw online was because he always clogs up the toilet in the Weatherfield police station.
With what?
With his Tinker Stinkers I saw on the Digital Live forums.
Yeah,
I'm not
very
playing that
clever.
one. But I do wonder whether,
I wonder if this is going to come up later and they're
So
going to
do I.
explain that they've lied to him and said his nickname is Clogs, but actually it's a rather cruel nickname that they're hiding the origin of.
I've got a feeling it's
This is the only way I'm going to forgive
very
this
clunky.
because everybody knows what Dutch courage means and you can't just change the meaning of it.
I still got a feeling that this racial profiling thing that happened the other week is going to be spun out into a story. Well, because it's going to turn out that all the coppers at Weatherfield police station are bent or just a bit nasty. And Craig.
When you say nasty, do you mean racist?
Well, yeah. And Craig's going to be the goody two shoes.
Can I just say, in defence of nasty people, you can be nasty without being racist.
You can. No, so I wonder whether it's going to be that, and whether it's going to turn out that they're actually making fun of him, and they think that just maybe. I hope so, because I didn't think that line about Clogs was very good. What have we got next? Gemma's eating a biscuit, so I'm going to carry on talking. But I don't know where we got to. Yeah, Craig is here. And then Abby's like, I'm not going to let the arrival of no policeman stop me from saving the day. I'm Super Abby. Kicks down the door of the fridge, gets inside, sees their seemingly frozen corpses slumped across the floor and just collapses into tears. Of course, she can't run over to them because she didn't form a bubble with Mike Lavelle and Sue Devaney, so she just stays there at the door going,
when she broke in, I was like, oh, Abby saved them, and I was so excited for her to rush over and embrace them and sort of carry them out that I forgot that she couldn't.
No.
So when she sort of collapsed in the doorway and started crying, it just kind of made me laugh a bit because I thought, oh yeah, she's not allowed to.
I thought that it was quite a good performance from old.
Oh, it was a fantastic performance.
Sal.
It's just unfortunate that that particular reaction just made me realise, and it sort of pulled me out of the...
Well, we have had quite a lot of that, you know, in the last 6 months, haven't we? Characters discovering other characters and then just standing and screaming at them. Like when Peter had his seizure a couple of weeks ago and Ken was like, Peter,
No,
I'm sure you're okay, I'm just going to go phone the ambulance.
Kevin gets a few words out and she's like, oh, thank goodness. So they get ambulanced away and Craig says, oh no, they tell Craig that it was Ray that did it, but he's being released at that very moment and he gets away. He gets into the car with Miles, the evil solicitor. I mean, actually, no, that's a... What's it called? What's it... where redundant phrase? All solicitors are evil and lazy. Abby's talking with Kevin in the hospital later and he says...
Yeah, we're having a problem with our flipping solicitor at the moment with our house sale. They are not replying to our emails and then they're asking us to send us paperwork that we've already sent them. You don't want to hear about this.
No. So Abby's in the hospital with Kevin and he says, me and Debbie are fine now because if there's one thing that brings two people together, it's being stuck in a small room with dodgy lighting with a bunch of swordfish. And Abby is not impressed because she feels sort of super betrayed by Debbie because now she realises, well, she thinks that because Debbie lied about killing Ray, that must mean that they're in cahoots. Yes?
Well, she was in, and she was in cahoots with him for all this time anyway.
Well, but she was in cahoots with him to betray him.
Yeah.
So she wasn't really lying that much to Abby. She was right in saying that she was not on Ray's side.
Well, she always had a bit of a beef with Debbie, didn't she? Abby did. And then she kind of thought that she could trust her for a little bit when she realised she was a murderer.
Yeah.
And then she's like, oh, I should have never liked you.
I always trust murderers over anybody else. Craig arrests Ray at the airport, which is really just part of
oh God, that's
Underworld.
Sad.
With champagne in a bucket.
It felt like it was a corner of the Underworld set. I don't know for sure. But
that frosted window looks a bit suspicious.
It certainly didn't look like an airport.
Oh, excuse me, can I just ask you a question? How many business lounges have you been in?
Okay, fine.
Because I've been in one, so I think I know.
It's scenes like this that really, really do make me miss the amount, the opportunity that they had to go out on location sometimes
shoots.
Because they've had quite a few scenes at airports and Coronation Street in the past. The problem is, the more that the set has expanded and with moved to Media City and everything, I think they've been more tempted to say, oh, let's just do it in-house anyway if we can and only leave the confines of Media City if we really, really need to. So it makes me wonder whether if they were allowed out, if we weren't on lockdown or whatever, would they have done any differently? I think maybe they wouldn't, which is a shame, really, because it clearly just looked like a cheap little corridor somewhere, and I was taken right out of it.
Well, maybe this was Weatherfield Airport, where their business lounge is a bit rubbish.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Because I do think that business lounges vary in quality, depending on what airline you're with. So Craig arrests Ray. He was being very cocky and then he sort of got found out. That was quite satisfying. So Craig tells Faye and he says to her, just because we've got him, just because he's got in trouble for this, doesn't mean they're going to go easy on you in court, by the way. And then they also decide to go out with each other, because if there's anything a girl wants to hear more than that, I don't know what it is. But tell me next Valentine's Day and see what happens. Abby goes to see Kevin. She's all excited. She gets down on one knee. Then she gets up again. She's like, I don't know how to do this. And then she finally comes out and says, will you marry me? And he says, yes.
Aye, lass.
Brilliant. Abby is so excited on Friday. She gets a bit randy behind the hospital curtains. So excited about being engaged. Kevin says, oh, I've got a surprise for you back at home. I think it's just like the instructions for the vacuum cleaner. Seeing as what he's gonna wife her. She better learn how to use all the appliances. Abby goes and visits Debbie in her ward. She's not very happy with her. She says, did you care at all about Ray's victims, or was it just about the cash? And Debbie looks a bit guilty and says, well, it all turned out all right in the end, didn't it? Which I think is the Coronation Street just motto in general. Abby says, I'm no intention of forgiving you. She brings out this paperwork that has all been signed to say that Ray's transferred everything to Debbie, and she definitely didn't do anything wrong and nothing is her fault, and says, oh, wouldn't you like this? Oh, I'm going to rip it up. And then she says, no, I'm not going to, because I'm not evil like you are, and gives it back to her. Everyone's happy about Debbie, Ray. Oh my God.
Abby and Kevin. Debbie and Ray aren't getting married.
They could do, why not? They're really excited. Jack and Seb, hooray! They have a Rover's takeout. I don't know what that is. What does that mean? A hot pot in a microwave dish and some cans of beer. You can get that from the Co-op. Tyrone visits later. He's got a freezer full of ice puns to tease Kevin with. Everyone's having a jolly time. He asks about Debbie. Kevin says she's being kept in. Sally talks to Abby and she says, oh, I've wronged the girls. They're both so excited about the engagement because now she's going to be their stepmom. They also talk about Faye's case and they need a bit more of Ray's victims to come forward. And they also talk about the fact that Kevin has forgiven Debbie. So, Debbie's discharged herself and she's in the bistro and she's talking to Adam.
She's not in the bistro, she's in speed dial.
Is she?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It doesn't really matter.
Everyone went to speed dial at every opportunity this week. Did you not notice? I think that was the most used set this week. Ali was raking it in.
She gets the business. She's got the paperwork. Adam's checking it over and says, everything seems to be in order.
You're gonna be a very powerful lady.
Yeah. She says, Adam, please be my new Miles and take over and be the evil goon sidekick who is also lazy and does all my lawyering. And he says, no, I'm not going to because I care about how people think about me, which is the least Adam thing that Adam's ever said. I can't believe that Adam's like, no way, I don't want to be associated with somebody that people don't like.
Is he back with Sarah at the moment? I don't remember.
Well, he complains about the fact that she did...
She was partly responsible for this. Well, no, she was working alongside Ray, who was responsible for the sinkhole in his wife's garden.
It's like, it's not your wife's garden. It was your wife's brother's garden, and now it's your wife's mum's garden. So calm down, Adam.
Yeah, so he doesn't really want to risk the wrath of Sarah Louise by.
All he needs to have said was
Webster.
literally, I'm not going to touch this with a barge pole because I've already got this. Wah 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 from Sarah as it is. I don't need more wah 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 from her and David and Gail. Thank you very much. But anyway, he didn't say that. He said, I don't want to be associated with you. And he leaves her alone, but she doesn't even care. She's like, yes, I've won. I'm in the money. I've got away with it. I've got my paperwork. And she's happy. And also Kevin's forgiven her.
Yeah, everything is turning up trumps for Debbie Webster at the end of this episode.
Debbie Webster is the Donald Trump of Weatherfield.
You reckon?
She's a property tycoon who gets up to dodgy dealings and somehow never gets in trouble for it.
Oh, it's going to come and bite her on her bum, on a frozen asset later. So, what do we think about this week? Freezer stuff first. One thing I would say about
not freezer.
Fridge stuff first. One thing that I was quite surprised about, to be honest, is how long they strung it out. I mean, for the fact that when they went into the freezer on Friday, I kind of thought they'd be out by the end of Friday's episode, and then they weren't. And I thought, okay, Monday they're going to be let out of the freezer, and they weren't. So I did quite appreciate, the fact that we were kept kind of on tenterhooks, if you didn't know the spoilers, for a little bit longer. Even when they had Abby going into the bistro on Monday, and they were banging and she didn't hear it, or then she heard it for a bit and then you went off. I thought that was quite good, because even then I was thinking, now don't find them yet, keep them in there for a bit longer. So I appreciated that they did. What was your overall impressions?
The whole thing just had me going, this would have been so good if only ... which is to say they hadn't released information that was seemingly unrelated to this at the time, which then became a major... I'm not even going to say what it is because it's still a spoiler, but just don't tell us. There's definitely a difference between releasing information that's a spoiler about a storyline and releasing information in general that can then be used to decipher what a storyline
Well,
is
I think it's a fair game for us to say now that Coronation Street.
No, because some people still haven't heard that.
But we're saying that Debbie Webb, we knew.
No, I don't think it's fair to say, because
we knew that Debbie wouldn't be dead at the end of the week.
Yes.
We knew that. There's been information that's been released by ITV that said so much. And so there was really no tension at all. And I don't know why they released that information, why they thought it would be useful for us to know that a couple of weeks ago when they said it, because unless you were one of the people, and I'm sure there were plenty of people who hadn't come into contact with that little bit of news, it's like, yeah, so they're going to be fine. I mean, at one point I was partly thinking, could they kill Kevin off? And I thought, no, they wouldn't. I mean, that would have been an amazing twist, and it'd have been kind of sad, I suppose, but I'm sure I would have got over it.
I would have got over it.
Because I don't think that Kevin's many people's favourite character at the moment, I have to say. But I just think that was the silliest thing for Coronation Street to have broadcast the fact that Abby was going to be staying around a little bit longer. And also, plastered over the front of the soap magazines this week, was Abby proposes to Kevin when she gets out of the freezer. Had you fridge? Had you?
She wasn't in the fridge.
Okay, when he gets out of the
No,
fridge.
I haven't seen it because I don't look for spoilers.
I don't look for spoilers. They just come and find me.
Go to press conferences.
This one was literally.
Let's talk about something different.
I just think it was very, very unwise of Coronation Street to have revealed what would happen after the freezer.
It was incredibly unfortunate timing. I can only imagine that there was some other reason that they had to release that information at that time, but whatever it was, I feel as though it wasted a really good opportunity for some actual real tension in Coronation Street, which is what we all want to watch it for.
Yeah.
The other thing I'm going to say is that at times I could not understand what they were saying.
No, I was going to say that now.
Because they were acting their little socks off, but they were huffing and puffing, and they were saying every word after a massive exhalation, and I couldn't hear what they were saying, honestly.
We should have gone back with the subtitles.
They're like,
come to think of it, but...
just so you know, like, I don't care. Okay, shut up.
Yeah.
If you've got nothing to say, keep your mouth shut.
And the funny thing with it all was that it was actually boiling hot in there, because when I was looking at watching an interview with Sue Devaney a couple of weeks ago, she was saying that she was like, they had sweat pouring down them because obviously they had to have all these layers on, and they had the hot studio lights and everything.
I'm surprised they didn't start hyperventilating, really, because if you're really hot and then you start huffing and puffing, surprised they didn't have a funny turn.
Yeah.
The other thing we learned is that Bill's not dead. They didn't mention the fact that he was dead. Would have been something that you might have talked about if you were talking about your dad with your brother.
One of the things that you went into Monday's episode saying was, I hope that they get some nice kind of character moments and some...
well, yeah,
we kind of did.
Kind of did, but it annoyed me because I didn't really like the whole, you know, I regret not having a family thing that literally she was saying to her brother, who's her family, which was really offensive. I didn't like that. I think Coronation Street can't handle women that don't have children. I found that offensive. I don't understand why we didn't find out if Bill's dead, then why didn't we get to find that out?
No, I think we just
couldn't hear what they were saying.
He isn't.
And that's all I'm going to say.
I thought it was fairly nicely done.
This could have been really good. It just that some like massive things that they're so easy to avoid just kind of ruined it. Can't understand what they said. Don't understand why there was a dig about women who have careers and not families, and don't understand why the other thing that I forgot what it was. What was I moaning about? It literally does. Why we knew that they would be fine. So those three things change what could have been a really dramatic and exciting set of scenes to something that was kind of a bit boring.
Yeah, it was different. I thought the rescue in the end was quite good.
Also,
I'm glad it was Abby, of course.
It doesn't really help that I don't like Kevin, and I kind of wish he had died.
That's harsh.
Yeah, I'm really starting to... Kevin is the new Tim, for me.
Yeah, but he's getting a bit more screen time now, isn't he?
Yeah. I don't want to be negative and dwell too much on this, and I understand this is my problem. It's nobody else's problem. I don't expect other people to feel the same way about it as I do. But those are my thoughts, and I know some people thought it was great. So
do you sympathise with Debbie for her? I mean, did you understand her going for the money, and do you think?
What does that mean?
I mean, she was painted out, like you said, as being a little bit evil for being a bit materialistic and capitalistic and everything, but I don't. It seems like at the end of the episode that hasn't changed her spots.
I kind of
in
like
that
the
regard.
fact that she was like, you know what, I faced death, and the main thing I thought was that I didn't have any family, and then I came home and remembered that I don't have to put the dishwasher on for my useless husband. So hooray for me! I'm free.
I liked. I was kind of going back and forth about whether I wanted to be good or evil.
I don't think there's anything evil about caring about money. And like nobody, this is the thing that annoys me. We never hear this debate about men. Nobody was ever saying, "Oh, I wonder why Mike cares more about his business than his family." It's always the woman who's supposed to have some kind of dilemma about it. What about the women that just genuinely don't care? And she's got more family than I have. I don't know what she's moaning about. I don't have any siblings.
At the very end, when she was kind of chuffed with herself for getting Ray's business, and I think we probably shouldn't think too hard about the ins and outs of how it was all transferred to her and everything, but she is now the new tycoon of Weatherfield.
Good for her.
And to me, that was quite exciting, and I was almost thinking good for her, but I wonder whether they're going to lead her down that dark and villainous route.
Oh, what?
And I kind of would find that quite interesting, because she has proven, Sue, in her performances, that she can do that really well. And we've said so long that we want a villain, and I haven't seen very much of what's that, Kim Tate, is it, in Weatherfield? And it seems to me that it's Emmerdale. Sorry, it seems to me that that they could take her down that kind of route, being a hard-faced business bitch kind of woman.
The thing is, they can never really have her turn around and say, "Yeah, guess what? I don't even care about all that stuff to do with friends and family and community and everything, because I just love money, and that's the most important thing." Because that's not what Coronation Street's about, and also you'll just be insulting 95% of the people that watch it, going, "But if that's true, then why do I have children?"
My little thought while I was watching that as well tonight is, it would be quite good if she could team up with Todd. I think that Debbie and Todd would make a very compelling partnership.
Oh yeah, because if she wants somebody who's good with legal stuff, he's going to stroke off, but he can still probably do the paperwork.
Well, I think that he could do some dodgy backstreet lawyering for her, because I mean, literally, if anybody ever needs a lawyer in Coronation Street now, you've got plenty of regular characters to go to. She's already tried Adam. Is she going to go after Imran next? I can't imagine that Imran's
too po-faced. He'd be like, no, I could not possibly.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone's going to turn into the dodgy lawyer out of him and Adam, it's going to be Adam, isn't it? So if she's too evil for even him to accept, then no way is Imran going to. But I just think that Todd, who is also doesn't really care about anyone else. He enjoys winding people up.
They're the most interesting characters.
He's interested in materialistic things and the money and everything. I think that they could make a really, really fun partnership. And I mean, the circles that he moves in at the moment is not linked in any way to where Debbie's kind of corner of the street. But I propose that pairing.
I like the idea. I would love to see that. I think it's fine if Debbie sort of has regrets about her life and wants to express them. That's cool. I just am waiting for the unapologetically child-free and regret-free woman to appear on Coronation Street. Still haven't really had it. But I think that I really like Debbie. Perhaps she'll learn now to not wear capes and wear a proper coat in the Manchester cold.
I hope that they don't pair her off with anybody.
I don't want her to get involved in love.
She doesn't need that. I mean, I could see her maybe, I don't know, getting involved with Peter, because I still wonder whether Abby and Peter are gonna, lock lips again before the wedding, because now that she and Kevin are engaged, surely it's not going to run smoothly. And how could it go wrong? Maybe Abby turns to drugs, goes back to Peter again. He's on thin ice with Carla as it is at the moment. She could get involved in that kind of story. So, did you have anything else to add to that?
No.
That's about it for this story, isn't it? So I
thought
it was fine.
Here's the question. Much like when a character gets pregnant, one must ask, will this be leading to something that ends up with a birth or a marriage?
Well,
Are we going to have a wedding? Are Abby and Kevin
actually going to get married? Well, he said that he wants to get married as soon as possible. Sally today was like, "Oh, have you set a date yet?" I always think it's
he's
weird.
Pregnant.
I always think it's weird on well, not just Corrie.
In general life.
As soon as somebody gets engaged, somebody has to say, "Oh, have you set a date yet?" It's no, literally, we got engaged yesterday at evening.
At a time. Because if you've already set a date, then you've been engaged for a while, haven't you?
Yeah.
You don't get engaged and then immediately phone up like the local. I suppose with Coronation Street, it's a bit different because it's like, well, you are getting married at the Bistro, aren't you?
Yeah.
So it's just a question of when are they free?
Is Debbie? Does Debbie get the Bistro now?
Yeah.
Is that one of the businesses
I think that's what Adam was insinuating.
Okay. Well,
now the question is,
Kevin can get a discount wedding there, can't he?
Well, I don't think that Abby would want to get married there.
Yeah, bring back memories. Oh, this is where I was knocked
out.
out.
No, because she doesn't like Debbie.
No.
There's bad blood now, and if Ray had trouble shifting lasagna because of the fact that nobody liked him, how's Debbie going to cope?
Very true.
She might have to branch out into fish pie.
Sorry, Abby, but it's a global pandemic, and sometimes you just gotta suck it up and get married in your enemy's eatery. Because it's all there is.
Really, at the end of the day, though, if your main reason that you're mad at somebody is because it turns out they didn't murder somebody, I think you need to reflect on yourself a little bit.
I can't decide whether I want Abby and Kevin to get married. I think
up
till this
Kevin.
point,
I think they're really
I've
bad.
kind of liked them as a couple. But I this week when the proposal happened, when I saw it on the Soap magazines last week, it made me think. I don't really think I want that.
I think Abby's too good for Kevin.
Yeah.
And I think he just thinks he's such an old-fashioned oafy moron that he thinks that he's not getting a wife, he's getting, domestic help. The way that he was talking about having a wife, I understand it was supposed to be a funny bunch of jokes, but it's just really annoying. Because it isn't a joke. It isn't a joke because women seem to do all the... This is the thing that's come out because of the pandemic, and I don't want to be an annoying feminist, but it's too late. They're talking about how the pandemic has just made it more obvious how much more domestic chores women do than men in the house. And it seems as though Kevin is very much along the lines of, yeah, well, that's what women are for. And I don't like it. I think Abby's should expect him to do. Shut up, Gemma.
She was very excited at the prospect of getting married, but even with her, I think if she thinks about it, it doesn't feel like this is what she really wants. Although it is stability, because she's had this crazy life so far. I mean, a couple of years ago, she was zoned out on the floor, dosed up on heroin.
If you think about what were Kevin and Debbie talking about in the fridge, it was about family and who cares about you and who's looking for you. And I guess that was Debbie's main point, is that, I'm here in this fridge and so are you, but nobody's looking for me, are they? But probably someone's looking for you, which is, a pretty fair point. Your money don't come looking for you when you're stuck in a fridge. It just goes, ooh, interest. 0.1% a year. But Abby has kind of never rejected family. She's always wanted, she wants to belong to somebody, and now she does. And so I'm happy that she's excited. Just wish that it wasn't to such a...
Yeah, so to answer your earlier question, I'm going to say, yes, they will get married, but I can't see it lasting longer than a couple of years. What do you think? Yes or no? Marriage or not?
They will get married, and it will be really nice. And I'm kind of expecting Abby to wear something outrageous to the wedding.
I'm sure I'll feel very, very chuffed.
And it'll be
like,
I did love how excited well up a little bit and feel excited, and they'll have a nice car probably to go to the event and whatever. But at the end of the day,
do they need a car to go from number 13 to the Bistro?
Yes.
It's just like 2 large strides, isn't it?
Yes. Abby is a remarkable woman, even by Coronation Street standards, and Kevin is not. So that's all I'm going to say.
I hope that whatever disaster befalls their wedding, which in soap tradition it certainly will, that Abby is the one to save the day in a wedding dress. I know what's going to happen.
Oh no! Where is Jack's wedding leg? Had it ordered specially. It's made of It's made of the ivory of elephants.
Made of gunmetal.
What?
As a reference. Right, I'm going to move on to the next story. What's Simon and his feather-brained mother been getting up to this week then?
Oh, so mean.
Well, Leanne is still watching. I said last week she was called Crystal Moon, because I'm sure that's what it said in the synopsis, but it was Crystal Weber, I think.
Crystal Weber?
She's still watching her on the old telly box on Monday. She has to turn it off quickly when Simon comes in. He saw that she was on the phone, 'cause she's trying to ring up and ranking up those premium rate phone bills again, but she says, I was just phoning Toya. Simon.
I heard if you phone up Crystal Moon 5 times to get your loyalty card stamped, your loved one gets reincarnated as a pigeon.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, lovely. Mary's nearly there with Brandon, isn't she? Because he's turned into a robin. Simon comes home again later and finds Leanne asleep on the sofa with the telly on, and she's got a feather clutched in her hand. And she wakes up later and finds Simon rooting through her accounts online and saying that she has been spending loads of money on premium rate phone lines. And she says, and he says... He says she's nuts if she thinks that they're actually speaking to Oliver. And she says, oh yeah, well, I know, I'm definitely speaking to Oliver, so there. And if you don't believe it, then you know where the door is, son. So Simon is getting his nose put out joint a little bit there, but he apologises later. She says she's sorry too. And he does his best, bless him, to try and understand his nutty mum. And she says... well, the psychic knew things that she couldn't possibly know, like how he used to fall asleep to his music box and how he had dinosaurs on his pyjamas. And Simon is sympathetic towards her, but 100% sceptical about the veracity of Crystal Metz, or whatever her name is, qualifications in psychic matters. Although, I mean, to be fair, how many children do fall asleep to music boxes and have dinosaurs on the pyjamas? Because I think if somebody had told me that, I might feel a little bit, I don't think all children have naturally got dinosaur pyjamas, have they? Or music boxes.
Let's face it, Michael, only boys are allowed to have dinosaurs on their pyjamas, so that's a pretty fair guess.
But, you know... at least when Rosemary was knowing all that stuff about Gail, it was because Lewis was feeding her information.
So are you saying that you think that perhaps Oliver is communicating?
I wonder.
Do you want me to? I do have some stuff to say about this, but I was going to say it later.
Okay, I'll come back to it later. It's all right. Let's carry on the synopsis. That was Monday. Wednesday, Simon is still running the house. Leanne's been a big useless lump. She says, though, at least she's going to stay off the chat lines, and Simon says it's fine. If you need to phone them up for a little bit, you can, but just don't go spending all our money on it, please. So Leanne later gets a phone call of her own from the leisure centre, who wants to know whether Oliver's still...
Whitby Town Leisure Centre, how can I help you?
Wants to know whether Simon would still like his swimming lessons. Oliver still like his swimming lessons, but alas, Oliver is now swimming with the angels, so she tells them he doesn't need the swimming lessons anymore.
Oh, she's really sad.
She doesn't say, no, he's dead. Thanks for that. I'm just trying to get over it. She just says, sad times. Simon comes home and she's blubbering on the sofa again because of all this. And she's refusing to speak to Steve or anybody about it. Simon's like, come on, I'm your son, I'm not your dad.
Yeah.
Jacob, remember him? Chip shop friend? Tells Simon that
Jacob.
The boss has got another job for him. And Simon tries to turn it down, and Jacob says, well, you know, there's those debts, and there's the bike, and all that. So I really think you probably should take these jobs. But Simon has decided he's going to go on the straight and narrow for now. Leanne later on is chuffed because she's found another feather. And it's another little white feather come down from heaven. So she's all in a good mood for the rest of the day. They watch a weepy film together. She tells Simon how proud of him she is. He then phones up Jacob. Oh yeah, that's when he says, "Sorry, I can't be a drugs mule anymore. I'm watching a film with my mum." And then Jacob
apparently
phones.
Drug dealers don't do that.
No, Jacob phones the boss, and he's looking a bit panicky at this point because this is a little bit like the pyramid scheme that we had with Sean and Michael and Gemma in that a few weeks ago, isn't it? Like everybody's got someone higher up that's twisting the screw.
Yeah.
And Jacob says, "Oh, just leave it with me. I'll sort it out, I promise." But yeah, he's looking a bit worried. Nick comes round to see Leanne later under the pretense of borrowing a video game for Sam. Leanne knows that he's just checking up on her, though, and she tells him about the feathers because, Nick and Leanne are soulmates. He'd surely understand, but he tells her that she's nuts, really.
That sounds a bit crazy.
At first he looks at her with pity, but by the end of the episode he's telling her to stop being such a silly cow, basically. And then Simon says, "How dare you say that to my mum?
Get out."
Yeah, so many people have been ordered out of that flat this week.
I know.
Not Leanne, though.
Leanne will
She left the flat of her own volition on Friday. Good for her. Because she's found another feather first thing in the morning, and it's made her make pancakes. It's only like 3 days late for pancake day. But never mind, Leanne, you'll get there in the end. Peter is back, by the way. I'm also putting this story in here. And he's being closely monitored by Steve. He's had his detox, whatever, at the hospital. He still looks pretty,
they did at
worse for wear.
The hospital, at the detox, was they just gave him a foundation that's 5 shades too light for his skin tone.
He did look a little bit, pale, didn't he?
Bit beaky.
I think he's been. I think he's just had some of Ash's skin lightening cream.
Right,
he's found it in the bins. Simon goes to work later. Jacob's there offering him more druggy delivery jobs again. Simon says, "No, I said no. I'm a good boy now." And Simon says, Jacob says, "But you've got your money you owe me. There's that £1,000 and there's the bike. By the way, there is interest on this.
So
at the moment,
paying down the interest.
Yeah, at the moment with your chip shop wages, you're not really making a dent on this.
You're not even touching the capital, mate.
No, I mean, he's got all the lingo, hasn't he?
I know.
Leanne later nearly gets herself run over. She takes her first. Is this the first time that she'd gone out? I
haven't seen her wearing a coat for a good few months, so I think so. Because I was like,
and it is winter.
Coat.
Yeah, she nearly gets herself run over by Mary's flower van when her feather gets blown off by a giant gust of wind, and she goes chasing it into the road, and Mary has to swerve. It looked like she was going to swerve and crash into Deb's, which would have made
she's going to crash
bit more
into
drama.
The post box.
Oh yeah, it could have been. No, that was a poor bit of stunt work.
Well,
I would say. I think that
anymore.
The little face that Mary pulled when she was swerving was more of a comedy swerve
Michael,
rather than I nearly killed my neighbour swerve.
You make some funny faces when you nearly run people over in the street.
It never happens. Nick gives Leanne a bit of a talking to, saying, "What are you doing?
Don't walk into
the road, chasing feathers." And she said, "But who's Oliver's feather?" And Mary brings her some tea, and Leanne clops off because she doesn't want everyone fussing all over her. Later on, now you'd predicted this a couple of scenes beforehand, hasn't you?
I think it was fairly clearly.
I didn't notice it. I didn't see it coming.
The thing is, can I just say, when you're watching Corrie and you're like, "Oh, I guess that was going to happen," you're kind of supposed to have guessed it because they put it in there for you to see.
Sometimes they think they're being subtle about things.
Yeah, sometimes they do.
Like, oh, do we notice that Aggie and Ronnie are giving each other funny looks?
What could that be about?
But no, I honestly hadn't got this.
He was just looking very suspicious, and when
Brian comes around with a big bag of feathers.
I said to you, he's about to explain how Simon has been leaving feathers.
And that's exactly what happened.
I thought it was a dead pigeon, but it wasn't.
Yeah, Simon has been leaving bags of feathers. I don't know where he gets these from.
He's
in
bought
Brian's recycling bin. And Brian's there to lecture him on the importance of not abusing the recycling services provided by Weatherfield Council.
Feathers are recyclable.
No, what do you turn the feather into?
Bird.
That's how
Surely
baby
it's
birds
natural.
are born.
Surely it's a natural thing. You can just stick it in the compost.
Dust to dust, ash to ashes, feathers to
feathers.
birds.
Yeah, but what do you do with them then? Stick it in a landfill?
I don't know what happens. They decompose, don't they?
Well, then it's recyclable if it decomposes.
No, you stick it in the bin with the rest of you. When the cat brings a bird in, you don't stick it in the recycling bin, do you?
Yeah. put it in the compost. What you do.
Anyway.
Stick it in the freezer and see if you can make it into stew.
The gig's up for old Simon.
Reduce, reuse, recycle.
Leanne knows. Simon's with Peter for a little bit. They agreed to go to speed dial
I really
later.
loved the fact that there were just feathers floating in the air. This whole scene, it was very.
Which scene? Oh, the one where Simon goes back. and Leanne confronts him.
Yeah, sorry.
She goes nuts, doesn't she?
She throws feathers everywhere.
I bet she loved that. That was
a parade.
God, Jane, do this in one take because we're not cleaning up. In fact, we've written it into the script that you tidy up these feathers.
Yeah.
So it's up to you how many you
Simon
throw.
Offered.
Do you want to do it with a flourish, or just want to do a few because you're picking them up?
Yeah. It made me think, like, if you were getting married, wouldn't you like that as confetti? To throw white feathers.
Yeah,
or is it symbolic
nice.
of something horrible? Or is there a reason? Like, are they slippery or something?
I don't know.
Are they, like, eco-friendly or not?
Yes, I just
Could
think
you
they
just
decompose.
chuck a chicken up?
It's probably better for the environment than the classic paper confetti that people say don't use. Anyway, she's mad at Simon. She reckons that he's been making fun of her, and that's about
He's like,
it.
no,
Really.
it's not even that funny.
He said at first he says I didn't know anything about it, and then
he's not very good.
We have an
at
advert
lying.
break, and then he says,
"All right,
oh yeah,
fine.
Yeah, you got me."
I was just trying to get you to leave the house and it worked.
So she then orders him out.
Yeah, get out!
Peter, meanwhile, is shattered on the sofa at number 1, and Steve says you need to focus on something. You're just not trying.
I know
So
what
brings him a
Leanne
jigsaw.
should get for Christmas, and it's one of those like trick trap doors that has a chute that takes you outside with a big lever she can pull. And so when it annoys her, she just pulls the lever and they go, woo!
That's like Mr. Burns has in his office.
Yeah, or like Sweeney Todd.
Yes. So Leanne, we think that Leanne by this point has realised that
you can't communicate.
she was barking
with
up the
dead
wrong
through
three.
the medium of feathers.
But no, she finds the original feather in amongst all the other feathers. I don't know whether this one had like a special glow or a sparkle or something. And then she goes, Simon, I just realised the first feather, the one that made you want to plant all the feathers to make me feel better, you didn't plant the first one, did you? So that must have definitely come from Ollie. And I was like,
you're
Leanne,
so mean.
Come on, girl.
Well, he says this was from Oliver, and so Simon says,
he's like, no, it isn't. He's dead.
Slap.
He earns a good old slap around the chops from his
That
mum
was
for
really
that
well
one.
done. They did that. I guess they did that with just the camera trick because she must have been nowhere near him, but it did look like she gave him a good old slap.
And so we have another scene with Simon and Brian later together, and Brian's telling him that he needs to take recycling more seriously. You've got to save the world. And Simon says, oh, what's the point of saving the world? The world's going to hell, and we're all going with it. And now I'm going to go and... Oh, no, then he gets blown off for this meal by Peter. Peter's like, oh, I can't come to speed dial with you. Sorry, I've got a really hard jigsaw to do. So Simon, his only choice now is to go and do some drugs delivering
Drugs.
for Jacob. Yeah, that's it. What did we think of this week then? Feel sorry for Leanne, or did you think that she was just being a bit too cray-cray?
We've been teaching you slang.
Jacob.
Yeah, to feel sorry for, I do. I think many times people can fall down these rabbit holes and think that there's a significance to things that perhaps there isn't. And if, honestly, as well, if it makes you happy, then fine.
I know, which is what Simon was thinking as well, wasn't it? I thought that was quite nice.
Like, why couldn't Simon just have said, yes, he sent you a feather? The other ones were from me, but that one was from Oliver. Or even, can I just say, either Nick or Simon saying, I'm glad you're happy, and leave it at that. That you don't need to say he's dead. I don't think she thinks he's alive because he's sending her feathers. What's the difference between seeing a feather and saying, my child is trying to let me know that they're at peace, or believing in God and saying, I know that he's in heaven? Or believing in anything. You know, just because this belief system is something that she's made up for herself.
I thought it was sweet that Simon was doing all those other feathers, to be honest.
It's typical Simon of like getting something like that's kind of okay and then turning it into something ridiculous.
I don't think he was turning it into something ridiculous. I think that he's been trapped with her in that house for the best part of 2 months now, and seen what she's become, and he's desperately trying whatever he can to get her out.
He introduced an element of of dishonesty and what's the word? He lied to her, which isn't right.
I suppose it's one of these things that she's bound to find out eventually, or one day the
Well, if
feathers
you
are
leave
going
a
to run out.
bag of feathers in the bin, you might get caught out. Where do you get the feathers from, Simon? Are you telling me as well that there's not a feather in that house that he could have found? You know, none of these pillows that I've got millions of has a single feather in it. I don't believe you. He could have just taken a feather out of any of the cushions.
Do you think Leanne would have kept all the feathers and made them into a little pillow, and then she could have had a little snuggle with Ollie every night?
Whatever. I don't care what she does as long as she's happy and she's not delusional.
It just felt to me, even though we've seen sides of her being delusional quite a bit in the past 6 months, with, you know, believing that Dr. Schmitz would come in and save Ollie's life and everything, it clashes a little bit with my idea of Leanne's rationality, especially at the same time at the moment this week in the 97 episodes when everybody on the street seems to think that all the houses are being haunted, and it turns out that it's just Les going around the attics and going in to visit everyone, and out of everybody, Leanne is the one that's saying, no, don't be stupid, it's not a ghost, it's not,
but she's just being an edgy teen as well, though.
It's just it was just very, very clear how different a character Leanne is now to how she was then. I know everybody changes and things like that, we don't all stay the same as we were when we were 17, but I don't know, it didn't sit quite right with me that she was so sure that this was Ollie, and when the other feather she found again at the end, and then she said, oh, but this one is from him. I was like, oh, I don't know, that was just what was going on in the back of my head this week. Anyway,
listen, what she was going through is something that is used against people by, like, con artists like Rosemary. It's called subjective validation, which is when you are presented with lots of different things, but you select the truth based on something that's got a personal significance to you. And this is why people can be tricked so easily, because if you're given, like, say, like in a cold reading, you're given loads of pieces of information, and, like, out of 10, 3 of them are true, you're going to focus, if you want to believe, in the 3 that are true, and not the 3 the rest that aren't, right? So she's putting significance onto these feathers, and she's not thinking, you know what, I did see a feather a year ago and it wasn't anything to do with Ollie. You know what I mean? She's choosing to believe this, and everybody's guilty of it in different ways, and it's very easy to trick people. Not that, I mean, Leanne was tricking herself. I don't think it's fair to characterise Leanne as sort of unintelligent or irrational or even inconsistent with her previous beliefs, to say that she saw a feather and thought it was a sign.
I suppose she has been trapped inside for a month as well, and that's enough to drive everybody crazy, as we know from living through the past 12 months. Do you think that what happened to Simon today was a believable reason for him to double down on this drug dealing, delivering dark path that he's on? Because it feels like now, it's like he had a little taster of it last week and then realised that that's not for him, but now he's like, no, I'm definitely going to do it. I think it felt fairly believable reason for him to
being rebellious, as well as
he's been trying everything that he can for the last couple of months to make things better for Leanne, and all he's got for it is being abuse shouted at,
ignored.
So now he said screw it, and I think is quite Simonish, isn't it? Because we've seen, you know, we saw him being a horrible teenager, and we've seen him start to grow up a little bit, but I think the nice Simon, let me make your breakfast for you, ma'am, let me, you know, let's be best mates and watch a rom-com together on the sofa, that Simon never really felt right to me. So I'm kind of glad in a way that he's going back to the dark side. It could be quite fun, and I'm warming to Jacob as well. Actually, I think that I think that the actor,
he's
I know, but I think that the actor who plays him is doing not a bad job actually of coming across as being intimidating when he needs to. I'm almost not really liking seeing him getting a bit worried when he's on the phone to the boss. And I know that I suppose that's supposed to represent the fact that, you know, Simon's at the very bottom of the pile and he's being exploited because he needs the money and he doesn't have a criminal record, or does he? I can't remember at the moment. And this is where what these kind of drugs barons who are into the county line stuff, they go for people who can go under the radar. So Simon's at the very bottom there, and then there's Jacob, the rung above him, and then we've got the boss, the rung above him. I can't remember what my point I was making was now, but basically I prefer Jacob as a character to some of the other horrible teenagers that we've been introduced to over the past couple of years, like Corey and Tyler. Do you like him? Or are you still reserving judgment?
He's an oaf. He's a goon.
But a believable goon, I think.
Can I just say one thing that I did not like about us ruined the whole week?
What?
We got referring to a jigsaw as a game. What are you on?
How do you win it?
Game night. If I went round someone's house for game night and I walked in and he was sitting with a blanket round him doing a jigsaw puzzle of a beans on toast, I would leave immediately.
I thought there's not beans on Weetabix.
Oh, yeah.
Right, you can do the Billy and Paul
Pull
story.
over, everybody. Monday, Billy's feeling overwhelmed because the parishioners are asking him for things, and he's like,
Well, it's mostly about they want ramps in the
ask
churches.
God, pray for it. Oh, it's not my job to fulfil.
He's realising that being an archdeacon isn't means that he has to have parishioners from all over Weatherfield moaning in his ear, and not just from his
locals.
church.
And he's starting to regret not just having this free house.
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't think it would be hassle. I didn't think I deserved a house, but now I do. So really the problem is that...
And they're doing the house up as well, aren't they?
I know. I think they said they were converting it. And I think that Billy came up with some like really nice and worthy idea of like turning it into sheltered accommodation or...
So the next archdeacon that comes along is like, can I have No, I'll have the house, please.
Get out, please. And it's like...
Sorry, Mr. Holier-than-thou current archdeacon, but I'm taking your job and I want the house back.
Yes, thank you. So their problem is that they want wheelchair access to... And there's too many of them, and he doesn't know what to do. So Todd says, why don't you sell the pews? Pew pew. And Billy says, but why? But no.
This is to raise money to...
Well, raise money and also get rid of the pew so that it's BYOC. Bring your own chair. And then suddenly the wheelchair people are like, finally, now we're at an advantage. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
So, yes.
Return story for Izzy.
So I like that. I understand they're going to buy replacement chairs, but it does feel a bit like Todd was saying, look, if they've got a problem, why don't you just get rid of all the chairs? What about those funny little embroidered cushions? They could just sit on those.
Oh yeah, the kneeling cushions.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
see, but at my church,
they did this. This is a common thing that's been.
They have sold the pews. And we managed to sneak in there and get married, like, what, a year, 2 years before they
one of the
changed
reasons
them?
we were like, getting there before they sell those pews. I'm not getting married with
I don't think we
folding chairs.
realised that they were going to sell the pews at the time, but it was very lucky. And this is the church that I go to with school, because we're a Church of England school, so we go there every Thursday, although not for a little while, as you can imagine.
We still have a service,
and we
have to.
Yeah. So they've just got these soft chairs now, and they are quite nice, but... I do like a good pew.
The ambience of a pew cannot be understated, can it?
No.
What's the point of a church without pews?
Yeah, I know they're a bit hard on the bum when you have to get a bit up close and personal with the person next to you.
You've got to pay attention, it's communal.
Yeah.
Everybody's got an achy bum, and so you're all united in wanting to get out as soon as possible. Todd says, but Billy's like, oh, I don't know. And then Todd says, guess what? I've already found a buyer. £6,000 for all these pews. Why would you turn it down? So Billy goes and Todd phones the guy back and says, yeah, the vicar's like a big hard ass and he won't accept less than 7.5.
He would know.
Well, because he's been sitting on the pews. He's got 7.5 grand. So he's going to make $1.5 grand out of selling these pews.
That didn't really go anywhere after this, did it?
I did quite like
that.
Wednesday. I also like the fact that that Billy's like, oh, what should I do? And then Todd's like, sell your pews. And then Billy's like, okay. And then Todd's like, thank God, because I really didn't know how to tell this guy that's phoning me up asking me for pews that I didn't know where to get any from. What a coincidence. So anyway, on Wednesday, everyone's happy to sell these pews. Just sell the heritage of the church. Why not? So's the bishop. Here's an idea. Sell like 2 pews and let the wheelchair users sit in that bit.
But I think it's also, like I said, to get money to make the Weatherfield churches...
start a GoFundMe. Do an
wheelchair
Indiegogo.
accessible.
Why doesn't he like put together a cool jigsaw of pews of Weatherfield?
While he
Peter
still
would buy
can.
it.
Well, I don't know whether they're going to go down this route, because I assume we are going to see inside St Mary's Church again at some point, and they're not going to have cleared out all the pews.
Maybe they've sold their pews already.
Maybe they have.
And they're like, guys, I don't know what to tell you, but if you're planning on having any pew-related storylines, then you're going to have to find a new venue. And so the location scout's like, I ain't looking for another church. You're going to have to do something about this.
Do you think
pews.
Billy's going to try and take the pew that he... one of the pews from his church, and he goes, oh, this is the one that I shot off on heroin on. So it's got memories for me. Can I just keep this one?
Oh, don't... Hang on, you want to wear gloves for that one, because I think I've put... Yeah, there's the needle stashed on there. Paul... Billy's chuffed, so's the bishop. They're going to sell these pews. Paul comes into the cafe, but everybody's a bit awkward, even though... it's his mum, what's her face? Bernie's behind the counter. He can't handle everybody staring at him, so he leaves, and I think Bernie's a bit annoyed. Paul tells Todd that he's going to quit because he can't handle
Quit
being
what?
around. Working in the factory.
Correct. Just checking you remembered.
I think his job in the factory is to make a cup of tea or watch somebody else making a cup of tea and say, I don't want a cup of tea.
Paul has been doing an excellent packing job in the factory.
Oh, that's true.
Poor old Kirk is now on his lonesome.
Yeah. Who was it that was helping him once? Is the girl working there? Was it Abby?
Don't know.
Something about Kirk that people, as soon as they work in packing, want to get out immediately. I don't know what it could be. He can't handle being there, so he quits. He mopes around in Victoria Gardens with Bernie. Ed comes along and says, do you want a job? And Bernie's like, yes, he does. He would love a job. And it turns out it is converting the Archdeacon's house.
What a coincidence!
I guess it must... Is it converting to Buddhism?
Yeah, fine, if the Archdeacon doesn't want it.
If you got a job for you, just walk up and down with orange robes on. Paul says, no way, I'm not going to do that because that's the opposite of what I want.
They're too close to the bone.
Yeah, I also can't believe that you of all people are doing this. Because that's a bit of a coincidence. And nobody says anything because he's just being a bit too meta there. Summer comes along and says, you offered me a present at Christmas, which is my Apollo's Creed, which is quite funny. You roll your eyes because you didn't think of it, because you don't know anything about films. He is supposed to take her to town, and they're supposed to have fun, and he says, I can't because I haven't got any money. And then Ed comes over and says, I know how you can have money. Do the job I asked you to do.
You can have your wages in advance if you like.
I don't know why Ed's being so nice, but he is. He obviously wants a boyfriend for James.
He just needs another labourer.
And so Paul says, all right then. So he buys Todd buys Summer, because it's Summer's birthday, which is even more ironic why she's called Summer. Why would you call somebody Summer who was born in February? Isn't that really cruel?
Well, it's like some people name their children after the place they were conceived. Some people the season.
So grim. That's so funny. So he's bought a fancy stay away in Buckinghamshire, but it's going tomorrow. So obviously he got it at a discount, is all I'm going to say. Paul was going to say that he's got the money to take her out, but he backs down because he feels, again, like he's being... he's not worthy. He's insignificant compared to Todd. Todd goes to see Billy, who says... he's drunk, isn't he, Billy? Because he's so excited about these pews. It gets and Todd's like, what do you mean stay a bit longer? And Billy's like, I don't know, what would Billy say, a weird euphemism? I can't remember, but
I don't remember, but Billy says, you know, no, what?
Billy's like seems to be like trying to get Todd to stay the night, and Todd's like, I don't know.
But Todd says that I can go now if that's what you want. You want me to go? Do you don't want me to go, really? Do you? And Billy says, yeah, you should probably go because he's falling under Todd's spell.
Yeah.
I thought this was going to go somewhere in today's episode. I thought that
we'd get Billy and Todd waking up in the bed together. Obviously, we can't.
No, I thought that with Todd and with Summer out the picture in Buckinghamshire, or
but I thought
with
Billy was going.
Yeah, but then maybe Todd and would try and screw Paul over, but I didn't. I'm not complaining because I found this story rather dull. And I said to you when we were watching it on Wednesday, it feels. It's a bit I can't remember what the word is, but it feels like not only does this story feel like it's been dragging on forever, but it also kind of feels like we're only just at the beginning of it. I wouldn't be surprised if the story is still going, 6-8 months down the line, because Paul's still got to go out. I mean, Billy probably will go out with Todd for a little bit, and then he won't, and then he'll get back, and I can just feel this dragging out through 2021, and I don't like that.
You know how Billy keeps, for some reason, mentioning that he wants to marry Paul, but he can't?
Yes.
I wonder whether Todd will get with Paul and then try to get him to marry him straight away to try to upset Billy.
Maybe.
Because I don't understand why they keep talking and bringing up marriage.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think they brought it up that much, but
they brought it up a lot of times, considering that it's literally impossible for them to get married, and I think it's unnecessarily antagonistic to people of faith who sort of Church of England people to keep bringing up the fact that Billy can't get married in the church when it's because of his religion, and he's obviously chosen to be this religion.
Yeah.
I've said this before on the podcast. He could be a Christian of a different... What are they called?
Denomination.
That's it.
I don't think people generally just pick and choose and swap. I know Henry VIII did, but I think most people, it's just what they kind of grow up into, isn't it?
Well, I'm not going to say anything, but I think all right, I will say something that's a bit silly. You
will say something?
I just did it.
Oh, okay, fine.
Well, the thing is, if you why wouldn't you change? If this is not your beliefs anymore... Why wouldn't you go?
Well, there must be. He did have this crisis of faith. 3 years ago or something, didn't he?
I know, but there's literally no point in being a part of a religion that you don't agree on some of the major tenets of, and then saying there's no way I can do anything about it. When there are other denominations who would say, "Yeah, you can get married in our church. We think it's brilliant."
You could just have a little break from it, go to another denomination, then
have
come back to Anglican.
Have a little break of being a vicar.
Anyway, I didn't find this particularly interesting. I still like Todd. I'm still enjoying Gareth Pierce's Todd, but
I'm enjoying the fact that Paul did a building course in prison.
Oh yes, that was very really coincidental, wasn't it? That was double coincidence in that scene. One, that they're doing at the Archdeacon's house, and two, that he happens to have got building training.
Training.
Also, did you notice that there was some construction work going on at the... is it an old council building or something? The one that's in between the Builders' Yard and the Victoria Gardens. Yeah. So they got this.
It's been a council building for ages, saying we've moved.
Wooden construction stuff.
Ooh,
outside. I don't know what the word is. I don't know, but it looks like finally because this is the place that Daniel and Sinead were going to get for their business, and then Brian and Kathy. But now finally it looks like maybe they're going to be doing something.
And this was like when they first brought in Victoria Street, we were saying, "Oh wow, it's really great." I kind of like the fact that there's not really any businesses on the street, and so they're going to fill it up. And then they haven't done anything.
No,
except open speed dial.
Yeah. Oh well. Right, let's move on to the next story. Is this me or is this you? I got lost. This is me, isn't it?
Yeah.
Bailey's. So we've got Wednesday. Michael is getting very, very excited about this whole baby thing that's imminently going to be dropping on them, and he's looking up alternative childbirth methods, like water births and...
Oh, I thought you were going to say he's going to give birth to it. That'd be probably the one that most pregnant women would go with.
No.
The alternative childbirth.
I don't know what else there is other than water birth.
Push it out.
Bungee birth. And Grace looks like she's getting a little bit out of her depth with it.
She's not out of her depth.
Well, she doesn't.
She doesn't want to bloody hear him going on about
all
something
day, every day.
in theory that he's got nothing to do with.
Do you think a bungee birth would be the woman is on the bungee, or is it some kind of umbilical cord thing, or is it that the woman lies there on her back with her legs open above a bridge, and somebody bungee jumps in, grabs the baby, and then pulls it back out again?
Men should not be involved in this at any stage.
That's why I'm not a midwife. Anyway, Grace tells Michael eventually that he's been too full on with this and she wants time to think about it herself and goes out. And I keep forgetting whether they're a couple or not. And we're definitely told today that they're not. But I think in my head they are. So they might as well just get on with it. A bit like Billy and Todd, really. They just need to get on with being a couple because it feels fairly...
we want them
feels
to.
Fairly
We're
imminent.
the ones that matter.
Aggie suggests that Grace give up being a stroppy mare for Lent, which is great. And Grace says, "Look, sorry about that earlier. I just feel a little bit upset because I don't feel like I deserve all that Michael's doing for me. He's going to be an excellent father." And then Michael comes home, they make up, but then Ed comes in and says, "Hey, everybody, Uncle Ronnie's coming tomorrow."
Yay!
You know, Uncle Ronnie, we talk about him all the time. He's the other member of our family. And Aggie is not exactly subtle in her disappointment about this news.
Horrible.
Ronnie.
Oh,
yeah.
Great, Ronnie.
And this continues throughout Friday.
And let's just make it clear in case it wasn't. It's Ed's brother.
Ed's brother,
it's not
Ronnie.
Aggie's brother.
No. Aggie wants to know what Ronnie is up to. She reckons that he's up to something, and he hasn't been round to visiting for a very long time. He's never come to see them in Coronation Street, at least. What's he up to? Meanwhile, Paul is because we're mingling storylines a little bit here. He's got himself his job. He's got his hard hat and his reflective jacket at the builder's yard, and he's earned himself his gold star by sweeping up around the yard.
If I worked at the builder's yard, I would never make money because I'd spend all my wages on coffee from Costa and going and speed dial for my lunch, wouldn't you?
Yeah. James comes around and tells Ed that another club are sizing him up for the next transfer winner, Croftley Town. Is this a real football team? I don't know. It's not Manchester United, that's all that matters. Ed's well chuffed at this. He also takes the opportunity to remind him to watch out for Uncle Ronnie, who doesn't know he's gay. So Paul overheard them talking about this, and he has this little chat with Ed about, he said, I remember this time last year you didn't know that James was gay, and then you weren't really happy about it for a little bit, were you, at the beginning? And Ed said, I just want whatever life will give my boy less grief. I just want the world to change. And I don't think that necessarily is what... I think Ed did actually have a bit of a problem with it.
I thought it was that, though. I can sympathise with a parent who is told a child is going to suffer from discrimination, thinking, I wish this wasn't the case. And it's not...
Oh yeah, I believe that as well. I think
yeah.
The way I remember it, but maybe I'm just remembering what they thought that Ed was thinking about.
He was saying stuff like, the family won't like this.
Yeah.
Because there was some people... we had some feedback. I can't even remember if you read it out or not, but I know that some people were saying that there's a problem with homophobia in some Caribbean communities, which
But it turns out that Uncle Ronnie is fine because he rocks up later in his swish car, gets introduced to Grace, who he charms. He's a
charmer.
He goes off on the charm offensive. I quite like Ronnie so far.
Yeah, I do.
They decide to go down the pub for a pint, and James wastes no time in revealing that he's gay.
What did he say? I've forgotten.
Ronnie's like, oh. You're a bit of a
player,
player, aren't you? You go
this.
Down wherever.
We need
and
to
James
say this.
says,
Michael, shut up. He says, Michael,
he's saying it. Go on.
He says, "Oh, you're going to celebrate down Deansgate," and then James says, "Canal Street's more my kind of thing," and I don't know how famous these areas are outside of Manchester or the north, but that's obvious. If you listen to the podcast, you probably do know. But Canal Street is like the gay district.
Yeah,
of Manchester.
they've featured Canal Street and
They've talked about it a
Coronation
few
Street
times,
a
but I
couple
am
of
going to
times.
say, if you're not from Manchester or you're not from the area, this is a very obscure reference, which I'm kind of surprised.
Canal Street is the place where all the dead bodies float up, isn't it? That's what you would be thinking.
But if you're not from the UK as well, you wouldn't know.
Not necessarily.
No.
Ronnie says, "Good for you," and James is relieved and he leaves because he's had his quota of scenes for the week, well, month probably. The rest of the family turn up later, and they're playing their darts and everything, and things are looking very frosty between Ronnie and Aggie. Still, he's just kind of acting like everything's cool and normal, isn't he? He's giving him a bit of a look every now and then, but I think it's just because she's looking daggers at him constantly. And they talk about, remember back in the day.
Remember Mum did this and that.
Yeah, they poke fun at Aggie a little bit, and Ronnie takes part in this. And in fact, there was a bit earlier on where Ronnie's like, "Oh, is Aggie still here, or she's not left you, or something?" I can't remember what he says, but he's kind of insinuating that.
But it's one of these things where he's got plausible deniability, where he can be like, "Oh, it's just a joke," or "I was just saying that she's too good for you." Or
yeah,
whatever.
well, Aggie says, "Right, I need to go back home." She makes her
She
excuses.
says, "I've got loads of ironing to do."
Oh,
what is it with the women on the street?
Hope she remembers to plug it in. Anyway, so they all go and she goes and they all crack the rum out.
Knowing Aggie's cavalier approach to cooking, if she has the same for laundry, they'll come home and their jeans will be full of pleats.
So back home, Grace. This is back at home, and it's just Grace and Aggie there. And Grace is like, "What's the deal between you and Ronnie? Because it seems like you've got beef with him. What's the backstory there? What's your dark soap secret that you got this time?" And Aggie's like, "Oh, it's nothing. You can just lead Ed astray, and I don't really trust him." And right on cue, Ed comes. Drunkenly stumbling in, he kind of tosses his keys on the floor, and he's been having a good old time with a run with Ronnie, and he also says that Ronnie's going to be moving in round here, so we better watch out. And Aggie is still kind of seething there, and Grace gives her a look as if to say, "I don't believe you."
Interesting.
That's all it is.
Interesting. Now, here's the question. Is Grace going to leverage this in Aggie's favour to try to win her over? Or is she going to try to use this against Aggie because she hates her?
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. It depends how happy she is with the situation where they're both just hating each other when they're in private.
Does she secretly just want to be accepted? And if so, this could be a great opportunity for her to ally herself with Aggie in some manner and sort of become in cahoots with her, or get one over on her just for revenge.
Well, the fact that earlier on Wednesday she was saying, "Oh, I can't believe how lucky I am to have Michael and everything," it's kind of that maybe makes it look like she wants to put their differences beside them and then just be a nice daughter-in-law. But I think that the temptation of some kind of blackmail might be too strong to resist for Grace when she inevitably finds out what exactly the secret is.
She'd probably try to hold it against her, I think. But it is interesting because she would have a bit of power there that she hasn't had before, because she's been on the back foot of, needing something from Aggie that Aggie doesn't really need to give her back.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think everybody...
The internet all says, "Oh, Ronnie and Aggie must have had an affair," or something like that. I mean, I've seen...
I can't think of anything else it could be, because...
I think Rebecca tweeted us and said, "Oh, maybe Ronnie attacked her or something," but then I don't know why Aggie would have kept that a secret and not told her.
Well, I mean, it's not unusual for a woman to feel as though she's done something wrong.
I suppose so.
And feel as though she has to keep the secret to keep a family together.
Yeah. Or does she know, has he got some kind of dodgy criminal past? I mean, he's obviously pretty minted. Has his money come from criminal dealings and Aggie knows about it? It's got to be something
that only Aggie knows about. Because everybody, if it was something just sort of a joint secret, then they would have said something to her like, "Get over it now, we have," or something like that, you know.
Yeah. Only she can know.
I don't think it can be him being a criminal, because I don't know why she would keep that a secret.
That's the thing. The only reason that she would really keep it a secret, if she hates him that much, why wouldn't she just tell Ed? Apart from to keep a happy life, she must have done something wrong as well.
Yeah.
Maybe they robbed a bank together.
Yeah, maybe they robbed the bank and ran over the security guard.
Getting out that old story again.
Yeah, maybe that lady will come back to the pub and go, "I owe your husband an apology."
It was actually Aggie.
It was a completely different set of people that also robbed a thing. It's just what's the word? It's just crossed wires.
Yeah, it was those people next door. Yeah. Anyway, so it feels like it's going down that route, and I'm sure that it won't be too long before we find something, because they were certainly laying it on thick.
I was so expecting the episode to end with Aggie sort of meeting what's his face,
Ronnie in a dark alley,
going, "Keep your mouth shut."
Yeah, because it's not exactly subtle. We don't need to see any more of those looks really to know that something's going on. So I hope that they don't drag it on for too long.
So are we of the opinion that they've had an affair?
It would seem, having watched Coronation Street for many a year now, that this would be the most likely.
Did you see that tweet that you showed me that tweet? Are we going to mention that tweet? Because I thought it was funny.
I don't remember what tweet you're talking about.
You showed me a tweet. Somebody says, "Which one of the Bailey children is secretly Ronnie's child?"
Oh yeah, I mean it's.
Is it going to be?
Seems pretty perfect for a soap plot. To be fair,
but out of the two, who do you think it would be? James or?
Well, you would have thought the older one.
Why? I don't. The other thing is is funny is it could be Dee Dee, and that's why I haven't met her yet.
It could be Dee Dee,
and she's the exact spit of Ronnie.
I can't remember. Yeah, they just need to cast Ronnie first. That's why we haven't seen Dee Dee yet.
Yes.
Yes,
and she turns up.
Could be James.
She turns up in a what was it? A Mercedes, wearing a grey suit and a flat cap.
Yeah.
All right, fam.
Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
I hope that. I honestly do hope that Ronnie's not secretly the dad of somebody.
I hope that he's not.
That's just...
We've had too many stories of people finding out that somebody else is... Yeah, that has been done far, far too much. I don't particularly mind the suspicion, but I don't want it to actually be true.
If you listen to the stories about people getting those DNA tests for Christmas and stuff, that seems to happen more than you'd think.
Yeah.
And they haven't done that yet, but that would be quite a fun plot. Have they done it?
What?
Getting a DNA test.
People get DNA.
No, for Christmas.
No, not for Christmas.
That's ringing a bell for some reason. But wouldn't it be funny if like Michael said, "Oh, for Grace's birthday, I've got us both DNA tests so that our baby can find out more about their family," and then and Aggie's like, "No."
Oh yeah, maybe.
That would be good, because I think that's really topical, and it's such a soapy thing that they haven't done on Corrie.
Yeah,
isn't it? It really, really is. And they even we know that they know about it because they had it on that "Who Do You Think You Are" episode, where they all did their DNA tests and found out that they were 1% African.
Yeah. It would feel like it's a little bit too coincidental that not 6 months after we had the last revelation, Tiana's not really Michael's daughter, Michael's not really Ed's son. I mean, where does this stop? Ed's not actually Aggie's husband. I don't know.
Yeah.
They can't keep doing that to us, and I think it'd be really sad because I love Michael, and I don't want his world to be. I don't want him to.
No, I know.
Have that happen to him again.
For Michael.
Yeah, James can take the fall on this one, actually, I think. Or maybe Dee Dee, because...
well, let's just address one issue that would come up then if it were to be James, is that if they're like, "Don't tell Ronnie that you're gay," because he'd have a problem with it, and it's secretly his child, and he would know that it's his child, you think he would have reacted a bit more once he found out that he was gay?
Maybe. He did take it very much in his stride, didn't he?
He was like, "I don't care."
Yeah.
Whereas if you were,
potentially his dad,
and you had a problem with him being gay, you might go...
Yeah. What do you think about the whole James getting transferred to another club?
I think he should go.
Do you think that this is a James exit
please
storyline
don't-
already?
Please
Oh,
don't
yeah.
let us hold you back. You're destined for better things. But it's a shame that Footballers' Wives isn't still on. He could go and be in that. Or maybe it is on, I don't know.
I don't know where this other place was, because I don't know whether it was a made-up football club that he's being transferred to or not.
Well,
But
Weatherfield is a made-up football club, so from one fictional one to another.
yeah, maybe you can get a foreign transfer
think-
to Charleville FC.
Yeah. I don't think anyone's going to be sad to see him go if he does leave, unfortunately. He's not made
I don't feel like he is.
No, I know.
I think like they've barely even started with James yet, but they could be
There's
like,
a lot of potential there.
yeah, but it's taken them 2 years and they still haven't really gone anywhere with it. One in, one out for the Baileys, perhaps, because already Ronnie seems to have infinitely more personality and watchability to him than James does. I quite like this new guy already.
Domino's rum.
Yes.
Not real either, I don't think.
Yeah, no, I thought it was good. I liked the charms. I liked how he was. He had Emma, eating out the palm
What do
of
you
his
call
hand.
her?
I can't remember. It was
Rockstar?
yeah, something like that. Who would he charm on the street? Maybe. No, I said I didn't want
Anyone.
Debbie to
Everyone.
have a boyfriend, but they could be two richos together.
Why can't he seduce Abby away from Kevin with his fancy cars? Right, let's do
We'll
Downward
see.
Dobbs.
Go on then.
On Monday, Fizz is fretting about Gary telling him about the fact that Tyrone and Alina filled a truck with his stolen property. Tyrone and Evelyn's like, how are you to know? So she goes to see Gary and she tells him, and apparently he wasn't really mad.
I quite like that scene where she's waffling on about Toblerones and stuff that
Yeah.
Evelyn was supposed to. Now, what was the thing about I can't even remember what it was. Oh no, Evelyn had given her a Toblerone to give to Gary as a present, but then it had been confiscated once they got to prison.
Yeah.
I'm glad she didn't try to stuff it anywhere.
No, it's would have
one-
been uncomfortable.
Yeah, triangular prism.
Worse than sitting on a pew. He can't sack her apparently from in prison, but I don't believe that. But it's only because he hasn't got anyone to replace her with.
Yeah.
So
Well, it seems that Fizz is like on duty all day, every day. And
she's running the business while he's in prison, basically. So he's like,
does she ever get a break?
Well, he says you've got to pay me back £600, which I don't know where he got that number from. And also, she's probably
That was the worth of all the stuff. That
I know,
was
but
taken.
she's probably procured this. He didn't buy it. He's in prison.
He's probably
She
been
should have
knocking
said-
around the shop for a long time.
Yeah, probably. He should be lucky to get rid of it. So everyone's stressed out, and so Tyrone doubles over on the sofa, clutching his heart. So they have to take him to hospital, and Fizz and Tyrone are worried, but it turns out it was just acid reflux or something, or indigestion.
Reflux refrigeratus or something. I
heartburn.
don't know. It wasn't
Refrigeritis.
anything too bad.
He needs to change his diet and get some exercise. So on Wednesday, he's eating bran flakes. He comes back from town. He's bought himself a yoga mat and he's going to start yoga. And his only outfit for exercise is a Weather County outfit. So he goes off to yoga wearing a football outfit. He also finds out before he leaves that Kevin's been rescued, and he's like, I probably shouldn't go then because I need to be here for Kevin. And Evelyn's making fun of him, and she uses reverse psychology on him to make him go to yoga, and he comes back and he's a bit tired. That's it.
What a gripping storyline that was this week.
This is like so relatable. I've been to yoga and it was tiring.
I have had acid reflux before.
It was very dramatic.
It didn't take me to hospital, but then I'm not a soap character, so
No.
I just deal with it in my own way. I
Well, look, it's NHS, it's free. Just go for it. And let's face it, none of us has been out for a while.
Yeah.
It's probably a nice day out.
I feel bad for Alan Halsall being told that he's, that Tyrone is all out of shape and everything, because I thought that Alan has
Pretty
been pretty buff over the last few years since he's been going out with old Tisha. I thought that he's got all ripped and everything. So now he's being told that he's a big tub of lard. I don't know. Maybe he has to wear a fat suit for the role now.
Or maybe he's just put weight back on because it is possible.
Maybe.
And you shouldn't be bringing it up because it's rude.
On I enjoyed Evelyn this week. I thought that her going on about Toblerones was funny. I thought the scene where she pretended that she couldn't move her legs was weird, but still funny. Speaking of internet theories, because everyone, not only was everyone on the internet this week saying, well, obviously Ronnie and Aggie are have had an affair together. Everyone was saying, oh, I wonder who he might bump into at the yoga. Could it be Alina, maybe? And again, it feels like the whole thing with Alina last week or the week before, whenever it was, wouldn't have been for nothing, because these things never are on a soap. So and she seems like the sort that might want to go to yoga.
She's gone off to yoga to sit behind Alina so he can admire her sun salutation technique.
Yeah, her Romanian rump. And I haven't got anything else to add about this story. It was fine. I didn't think that there was anything majorly wrong with Tyrone when he was whisked off to hospital. No. It seemed a bit of unnecessary melodrama.
It really doesn't make sense that he's paying how much per lesson. You know, it's going to be about £8.
You can't do yoga in their house, though, can you? There's not an inch of carpet space.
Move the table.
There's no room. It's full of clutter in their house, isn't it?
Move the table. What, to save £8 a week?
Get Ring Fit Adventure like everyone else did last year.
Yeah.
Johnny. Now, this was the story where I was like, oh, yeah, Johnny's in it on Monday. That's good. We're going to get another week of Johnny in prison. But it just petered out, didn't it? Johnny's got his imaginary cat in the cell again on Monday, which I loved. He's going to go and see the shrink later, who tells him that the reason that he's seeing hallucinations is his brain is filling in the gaps caused by the loss of sight. So we can't see things, so he's just imagining things instead. Don't worry, you're not going mad,
The thing
Johnny.
that a lot of people don't realise is that what you see, a lot of it is not actually what is there. It's just what your brain is telling you is there. And your brain and your eyes are quite lazy a lot of the time. And so instead of looking at what you're seeing, your brain will just assume that what was there earlier is still there.
Yeah.
And that's just how your brain works, to save processing power.
Hmm.
And if you really look into it, you start to even wonder, is anything really here at all?
Is it all matrixy?
And yeah, I love stuff like this, but yeah, that's basically it. So that's why sometimes if you drive to work and you space out and you wonder how the hell you got there, it's literally, you're not often looking at what's really there.
Jenny comes to visit him later.
So it makes sense that you would see things.
It makes sense. Yeah. Jenny comes to visit and he tells her that he quite likes seeing Aidan around, actually, because it makes him feel, safe and happy and everything. And it was really quite sweet because he said because Jenny says, you can imagine him like I imagine Tom. And he's like, yeah, but when I imagine him, it doesn't feel half as real as what I'm seeing now. It literally looks like he's here. And I'm just seeing the back of his head, and I want to be able to see the front of his face so I can say sorry. And I thought that was really well done.
That was really sad.
And it feels so real, but he does realise that he needs to stop, or so he says. But at the end of the episode, we see him flushing his pills down the loo.
Yeah.
And there was a nice little scene where Leanne's talking about struggling to get over her son being dead, while Johnny is kind of trundling through his cell, clearly going through the same thing, in a way.
But also indulging himself in a fantasy.
Yeah, like Leanne is, yeah.
Where they both are kind of semi-aware that they're really fooling themselves, in a sense.
But it's making them happy.
I know, this is the question, it's like, how permissible is it to allow them to continue? I just think they should just be allowed to. It's probably not healthy, and it's preventing them from moving on, but... Who are we to say? I mean, other people have more harmful ways of...
Well, it's keeping Johnny busy while he's locked up, isn't it?
Keeping him busy, feeding a cat that's not real.
Yeah. So I was very disappointed that this didn't carry on Wednesday and Friday, and who knows when it's going to come back again. I just don't know what exactly the story is now. Is it a story, or is it not? Is it just he sees things and then he's going to, get out of prison and they're going to go away? I don't know. And I was still on Monday waiting to see, is Shane Ward going to make an appearance in today's episode? What they should have absolutely done, and I was almost thinking, yes, here it is. The scene where, this final scene where he's flushed his pills down the loo, Leanne's talking. I thought she was going to finish his sentence. He was going to go and sit on his bed, and Aidan would have been sitting there next to him. That would have been a really, really good end to the episode. That I thought. I was waiting for it, but I think the opportunity has passed now. I don't think it's going to happen. But come on, he's got a single out this week. Come on.
I mean, I don't think this is going to happen, but you're saying that the time is gone, but I don't agree, because he's obviously trying to induce more hallucinations because he thinks that he can eventually be able to see Aiden's face.
Yeah, I guess so.
So if this deteriorates, then he might do.
Maybe.
I don't know. I've never seen a hallucination to my knowledge.
Or have you? Yeah.
So I don't really know what it's like. Have you ever hallucinated?
I don't think so. I did see Father Christmas on my back lawn that one time when I was little.
Yeah.
I was pretty convinced that he was real there.
I've heard things, but I've not seen things. I heard birds singing.
Maybe we can just hallucinate that Shane Ward is in the programme for a little bit.
Why shouldn't we be allowed to?
Finally.
Lovely gay
Street
dead.
Tour this week.
So on Friday, Shona tells Eileen, Gail is with George. Is that correct?
Yeah, you were making the dinner during this point. You could hear it. But
George is such a lovely guy, and Eileen's like, So Gail's with George.
Yeah.
Get over it, Eileen.
No. Gail is with George sorting out Ted's funeral.
Nobody's with George.
Not yet.
Gail is with him in a non-romantic sense because they're planning a funeral.
In a purely professional sense.
Mary is there, and she says we all just need to accept that he's a silver-tongued charmer, and we're all going to fall under his spell at some point or another. Unfortunately, George has had to let go seemingly his only hearse driver.
Yeah, must be.
Because he's lost his licence.
Yeah, Shuttleworth's funeral director's about to downsize a bit since Archie died.
Well, since the pandemic, not so many people have died. I don't know what they do normally when this guy's sick or on holiday, but apparently they can't do whatever that is. He has to just sit there quietly panicking while a woman with brain damage gives him advice. So Shona says, what are you going to do about it? And he says, don't tell anybody, basically.
Yeah.
Mary bumps into George at speed dial, and he says to her about this problem. Then Eileen comes in, and she's obviously, I guess, I can't remember what her... I guess she still works at Streetcars, but I haven't seen her there for a long time, obviously.
I don't remember.
Streetcars
doesn't even exist anymore. What's going on with Streetcars? Because it has been sold and it hasn't been bought back by it, has it?
No. So,
but there was a bit today when Michael took Uncle Ronnie out to go and see Streetcars, wasn't there?
Weird.
They mentioned...
Do you think Ronnie's going to be No, he's not going to be a taxi driver. He's got a lovely car.
Yeah.
So, so Eileen's like,
Eileen says, I'll do it. I'll drive your hearse for you. But then when Gail hears about it over the phone, she's like, I'm not having her drive my hearse.
Why would you want your worst enemy to drive your dad's funeral car?
Yeah, so George says,
he's like, it'll be Tim or Steve then.
Tim or Steve.
Because it's what did he say? Weatherfield executive something.
No, it was a street.
Yeah, that's it.
Streetcars executive chauffeur service or something like that.
Yeah, and it's sex.
Yeah. So anyway, I guess this is lining something up for next week.
I like the fact that Streetcars is so strapped for business that they're just hiring themselves out as funeral.
Yeah, nobody's got anywhere to go at the moment.
And I'm sure that everything will run very smoothly. Definitely in no way is this a bad idea.
No fights between Gail and Eileen.
There won't be any comedy driving where suddenly they forget how to drive a car and drive the hearse into underworld, and then the coffin comes tumbling out and dead Ted starts rolling down the road. I'm sure it will be great.
I feel a little bit deflated after this week's Street Talk. It didn't feel like there was a whole lot there.
Because I moaned too much, and I was too critical this week because there was nothing really that was wrong about it, and my philosophical ideas about what somebody in the fridge should be saying to their brother is not really that relevant to
I
the
love
rest
the Johnny
of the world.
stuff, but that was like 3 scenes and that was done. The Tyrone stuff was inoffensive. The Billy stuff I'm not enjoying particularly. The Bailey stuff was again fine, but not going to be anyone's story of the week, is it?
Oh, I quite liked it.
Leanne was okay, but I was getting a bit sick of her. And the fridge story, it could have been an awful lot better had we not known that everything was going to be okay.
I really wish I'd seen it, not knowing what was going to happen with Debbie.
Yeah, because most of the episodes, like Friday and Monday, I suppose, ended with, like, are they going to be all right? Are they going to survive? It looks like one of them's dead. But anyway, for me, I'm going to give it 2.5 floating placentas out of 5. I think
Grim.
it was
2.5.
Yeah, it was okay. It should have been better. Because they made such a big deal out of this stuck in the freezer fridge.
See, I didn't get any hype particularly, so I wasn't like
They had a trailer and everything.
disappointed with how it ended up. Apart from to say, again, like mourning what could have been, which is, I could have really genuinely be worried that Debbie would have died. Because it really looked like she was dying at one point. It's just being dramatic. I'm going to give it 3 emergency eyebrow pencils.
Well, important to have one of those in your handbag. All times.
I love the fact that that's like one of the few pieces of emergency equipment that Debbie had that was of any use whatsoever. I can only imagine what the rest of her pockets contained.
Right, who's the character of the week this week? I don't really know. Again.
Debbie, I think I'm going to give it to Debbie, even though she was asleep for a lot of it, which is the best way to get through a crisis. I've mentioned before I've been watching the Marvel movies, and I really enjoyed, I think it was Thor Dark World, where Jane spends most of the episode asleep, having a little nap. So I think anyone who can sleep their way through drama gets a point. And I also like the fact that at the end she was like, yes, even though Adam was like, I don't want to be a lawyer, she still didn't care because she'd won.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm going to go with Debbie. I mean, it could be Abby as well for saving the day, but it wasn't a vintage Abby saves the day.
I mean,
really.
She saves the day so often we can start to get picky about it, can't we?
Yeah. Top 5 Abby saves the days next Patreon episode.
Yeah,
I'll give it to Debbie. I quite enjoyed watching her. I did like her little chats with Kevin when I could,
understand what
they were saying, which was 50% of the lines. Fine. Yep. And Ronnie's looking promising, so keep an eye out for that.
Yes.
That's it.